Hello, dear friends. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all else will be given to you besides. Opinion piece, artificial crisis, profound change. We are halfway there. The game is not over. Everyone will know the truth. The news reveals the past. Charlie Watt has everyone angry. Germany wants no trouble with Russia. Treasury turns to retirement funds. Let's start. Crisis means conflict, trouble, problem, change, transformation, and instability. To transform means to change, to vary, to metamorphose, to transfigure, to combat, to alter, to rectify, to reform, to correct, and to innovate. A crisis is a profound and consequential change in a process or situation, and an economic crisis would be a reduction in the rate of growth of an economy's output. It is a period in which an economy faces difficulties for a prolonged period of time. In other words, it would be an intermediate point between an economic recession and an economic depression. Maybe this is an artificial crisis to try to push currency revaluation. You don't tell your enemy what you are doing. Don't worry about this information. It will happen when it has to happen, and then everyone will know the truth. Max Sira said. The game is not over. We are halfway there. 3 types of crisis. First, in a financial crisis, asset prices experience a sharp fall in value. Companies and consumers are unable to repay their debt, and financial institutions experience liquidity shortages. It is associated with a panic or bank run during which investors sell assets or withdraw money from saving accounts because they fear that the value of those assets will decline if they remain in a financial institution. Second, a banking crisis is a situation in which one or more banks in a country or region suffer severe liquidity problems or insolvency at the same time. Third, a debt crisis is an economic phenomenon experienced by countries or supranational organizations due to financing problems, usually related to difficulties in the payment of their commitments or the management of interest rates. Another delay. Charlie Watt spin by Andrew C. Charlie says it won't happen until 2024. Misinformation may be needed, but Charlie's 180 degree turnaround of the state of currency revaluation is mind-blowing. Just a week ago, he and Simon Parkes could barely contain themselves about the good news coming in January. If he really is talking to the currency revaluation team every day, then he must have been directed to say this. And if he really is the spokesman for the revaluation, then he has just announced that he's out of a job. I suggest we regard this statement as a pure distraction. Max Sira does not believe that everything will be delayed until 2024 according to his contracts. We had a flurry of information last week, and now we seem to be in a lull due to the signing of non-disclosure agreements. Unfortunately, it was Charlie Watt who said that about 2024, so he has everyone upset. Charlie said it was his feeling, but no one needs to be upset because we all have our own feelings about when things will happen. If the contracts were lying to us, that would require tens of thousands of people to be in on the same lie. But some are giving the wrong direction. It is possible that the Chinese elders could force the process by launching Basel IV, which would be free up liquidity. Can you imagine the anger of billions of people around the world if banks started stealing your money? The French Revolution would be mild in comparison. I don't think they would risk it. Is there a rainbow on the new currency? It is called a rainbow coin because of the different colors of the denominations, but there is no rainbow on the banknotes. They are not printing any more fiat dollars. There are 3 new printing presses printing the new gold and asset-backed note. According to Stansberry research, people who think the dollar is going to collapse are dreaming. It is not something that just goes away, but the system is damaged because it is a centrally planned economy. This would be the real reason why central banks are desperate to accumulate gold. The beginning of the end, the news reveals the past. The dark side is making a move. They know the news will unlock the past and they are preparing for this. This is the beginning of the end for them. As the evidence comes out, they are preparing the plan. But this plan is not going to work out for them because it is a trap. Davos. Lagarde says in Davos that inflation is still too high. Saudi Arabia announced the death of the petrodollar at the Davos Forum. Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Haddan says his country is open to establishing its trade in currencies other than the dollar. A few years ago, 80% of all oil sales were in dollars. By next year, I think they will be lucky if 40% is still in dollars. Everyone from Elon Musk to Fox News openly mocks the meeting attendees. This is the most disrespectful coverage I've seen of the Davos Forum. The truth about Davos. They are trying to build a prison, writes Paul Joseph Watson. The CEO of a public relations firm, Rachel Edelman, tells Davos that companies should starve out distance. Soros influenced media and figures by giving millions of dollars to organizations linked to them. Several journalists, analysts and businessmen from CNN, NBC, Reuters, Bloomberg, NPR, Washington Post and other media outlets are among the billionaires' beneficiaries. According to the X22 report, the future doesn't belong to the globalists but to the patriots. The forum's message is not working. People no longer believe what they say. Their plan is failing and they know it. That's why they predicted a cyber attack. Nor bin Laden sends a direct message to Klaus Schwab, in quotes, "I am a humankind, not a QR code. I don't want to eat the bugs. I don't want to live in a capsule. I don't want to be trapped in a digital prison. And nothing you can do will make me." Europe. Germany doesn't want trouble with Russia to avoid its ruin. If Germany sent tanks to Ukraine, it would be getting involved and straining its already rough relations with Russia. Austria does not invite Russia to the inauguration of the country's president. Hungary considers Ecuadorian oil to diversify crude imports. More than 1 million French workers take to the streets against Macron's pension reform. Several means of public transport were paralyzed in Paris, Toulouse, Marseille, Nantes and Nice due to the strikes, and the Eiffel Tower was closed to visitors as the protests spread. In many places, crowds clashed with police. Borrell says European Union not seeking to become party to conflict in Ukraine. He admitted the conflict began in 2014. In quotes, "We are not one of the warring sides, and we don't want to be." Borrell recalls Russia's victory over Hitler and Napoleon, but calls for more support for Ukraine. Russia says Siberian Force 2 pipeline will be in demand in China. China keeps its benchmark interest rate at 3.65%. Parliament adopts a resolution against Morocco. A European Parliament, adopts a resolution against Morocco for the first time in 25 years. They also called on the country to respect the freedom of the media and to release all political prisoners and imprisoned journalists. Israeli Prime Minister's wife apologizes for rumor that she believes in Jesus. The United Nations needs more money to rescue the dangerous oil tanker stranded in Yemen. Treasury turns to retirement funds to avoid U.S. debt limit default. Thursday, 19th January, National Popcorn Day, was when the U.S. national debt limit was reached. The U.S. recognizes that defaulting on its debts could cause a global financial crisis. Trump calls for cutting payments to corrupt foreign countries after reaching the debt limit. According to Judy Bington, a meeting in Washington, D.C. between the Fed, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the IMF, the World Bank, and the governors of Africa's largest central banks established restrictions in which any dollar notes printed before 2021 would no longer be accepted or legal tender anywhere in the world by 31st January 2023. The New York Stock Exchange will change its name and become part of the QFS. According to Telegram's Captain Kill, when the stock market crashes, the Stellar XLM network will be used. It is an open network for storing and moving money. No borders, no limits. It is designed so that all the world's financial system can work together on a single network. According to a former BlackRock employee, global fiat currencies are about to fail. If this were imminent, currency revaluation would be just around the corner. Americas. Even Latin American leaders at this week's Davos Forum presented a series of environmental proposals ranging from protection to the Amazon to a change in the model of capitalism. First migrant caravan of the year leaves Mexico's southern border on Saturday. Brazil's defense minister rules out army support for Bolsonaro. Brazil launches operation to identify participants in 8th January assault. Protesters attempt to take over Arequipa airport in Peru protests. Hundreds of workers march in Ecuador for their social security and public pensions. Ecuador's public prosecutor's office carries out raids to investigate corruption in public companies. Moderate emission of ash is recorded from the Cotopaxi volcano in Ecuador. Guatemala calls general elections for 25 June. Thuri Rios, Sandra Torres, and Edmond Mulet are the main candidates for president. A complex situation of citizen insecurity worries in the Chilean government. Chile closes a controversial mining project called Dominga. It involves the construction of a mining operation at a port for the loading of minerals in a rich marine reserve in the north of the country, where, among other species, 80% of the world's endangered Humboldt penguins live. The Argentine Minister of Defense called for dialogue with the UK over the Falklands. Russia offers 30 scholarships to Argentinian students to train in the country. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.